In this video, we'll talk about the question, should I buy a house right now? Some buyers are nervous about buying in a seller's market when the interest rates are quote unquote high, and that's very understandable. Oftentimes, if you talk to somebody in real estate, they'll just always tell you, buy, always buy. And that isn't always the case. People are in different stages of life, and not everyone should buy depending on where they are in their season of life. Is buying a home a good idea in general? Absolutely. Is buying a home something that creates more wealth for you long term? More often than not, absolutely. Actually, a fun fact for you is the net worth of a homeowner in 2023 was $396,000. That's the median average of the net worth of a homeowner in 2023. The median average of the same renter in 2023 was $10,400. So you can see there's a very big disparity there. However, before just giving a blanket answer of yes, you should buy a house right now, there are a few questions you should ask yourself and that a good realtor would be asking you to see if it is the right time for you to buy. The first question is, why are you buying? Are you currently renting, or what is your current situation? If you are currently renting and this is your first time buying a home, then the answer to should you buy is typically yes, you should, because renting is at 100% interest rate. Naturally, you're not building any equity, and historically prices just tend to go up. So as you own a home, you're building equity. You're getting huge tax write-offs where the interest that you pay on your monthly mortgage payment is a huge tax deduction. Let's say you pay $20,000 in interest. Well, that's $20,000 that you get a write-off in your taxes. Based on your tax bracket, or you can do the math yourself as to how much money you're actually putting back in your pocket. It's usually rather substantial. But if you are currently renting and you have some amazing deal and you're saving up money for that down payment so that you can then go and buy the house that really fits the needs of your family, then that's a different story, where it might not be that you need to buy right now, but as long as you have a plan in place to buy as a renter, then that's absolutely okay. What I would caution you against is renting and trying to time the market. If you are renting because you think that homes will become more affordable, if you're renting because you think interest rates are all of a sudden going to be back down to 3% again, or things like that, then I would caution you, because there's a very good chance that you might be disappointed with the end result. There was a lot of people that we saw in 2020 and 2021 that didn't want to buy at those times, even when the interest rates were 2.5% and 3%, because prices at the time were quote unquote high. I've resold some of those homes that people did buy in 2021, for example, and I've seen people walk away with $100,000, $300,000 in equity just because they didn't make that decision. You know, if you make $200,000, $300,000 in 2 years just from living in a house, that's obviously never going to happen as a renter. Again, not a one size fits all of always buy, but I would caution against timing the market. Second question is, how long do you plan on owning the home, or do you have any moves coming up that are already planned? For example, if you're buying a house just to live in it for a year, by the time you pay for transfer taxes, by the time you pay for commissions to sell that house, by the time you pay for the fees that go into owning and selling a house, if it's a very short-term investment, well, then you would need to be very, very cautious and very, very specific on the type of house that you buy, unless you're planning on then renting it out after you move. And there's plenty of different strategies that I could go into as far as if it's gonna be a house that you're gonna live in for a little while, then rent it out. Definitely a great plan, but there is a strategy for that. So in summary, 2024 is the first year where it actually is more affordable on a monthly basis to rent in general than buying. So that is something to consider, that if you are renting with a plan, then it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to rush into a decision to just buy today. There are factors to consider, but it should be something that if you don't own a home, that is on your radar, that you are making a plan to achieve. And a quick TV timeout. If you're thinking about buying a house or selling a home, I'd love to be your resource for all things real estate. My number is 301-452-3245. Give me a call or text me anytime. The rest of my information to reach me is below. Now back to the video. Something to consider is your family needs. If you have a house that checks all the boxes currently that you're renting, and you wouldn't be able to then go get something that checks all the boxes for your family, that is something to consider. Is, okay, well then I need to be more aggressive with my savings to be able to go get a house that meets the needs for my family. So getting the house that meets your family's needs is something to consider as well. Buying a home is part of the American dream, and it is part of building your long-term wealth. Naturally, it is something that I highly, highly recommend. Warren Buffett always says that if the best time to buy a house was 5 years ago, if you can't buy a house 5 years ago, buy it today. And there's a lot to be said for that. But what that quote is saying is that the longer that you stay in a house, you're typically building lots of equity, and that is kind of a tried and true method. But there are some scenarios where it might not be the right time for you to buy, and that's also okay. The answer to the question is, should I buy now? Is not always yes. Is buying a home in general a great investment? More often than not, But keep in mind, there have been people that have bought houses and lost money on those houses. There have been people that have bought too much house because they weren't ready and lost those houses. So it is not a foolproof plan that just buying a house now is always a great idea. So make sure that you ask yourself or have those conversations with your realtor about, hey, is buying a house for me? Is this the right thing for me to do now? Again, if you're not buying a house just because you're timing the market, or if you're not buying a house because you think interest rates are going to be drastically different, then I think that you might be putting yourself at a disadvantage. So don't hear what I'm not saying, but I am saying that make sure you ask yourself the questions before you go out and make one of the biggest purchases of your life. Thanks again for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.